I'm not even going to guess what your favorite films are as a congregation. I have no idea. But it could be, some people will pick Disney films, Marvel, Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, some of the epics like that. You might have picked an old classic that may or may not have had sound. Depends on what type of film that you like. But I find films fascinating because they all pretty much have a similar storyline in one regards. Most films, I say most, not all, have a theme of good versus evil, of light versus darkness. I wonder why that is. I wonder why children get scared of the dark and want to sleep with a light on. I wonder why at Christmas, when nights are long, how many of you have already said, oh, the nights are fair drawing in? That's Vicky from like 3 months ago. But at Christmas, when the nights are long, it's dark, we fill our houses with lights. I wonder why. Why is the theme of light shining in the darkness all around us? It's in films, it's in media, it's in our lives, it's in our houses. Well, I think it's because it's been around since the creation of the universe. God spoke into darkness and there was light. The very first thing. We turned our backs on God and brought more darkness into the world. But God didn't turn his back on us. There has always been a light shining, showing us what true life, love, joy, goodness is. And that's God. He doesn't turn his back on us. And I think that all the media and everything else we see is just a reflection of that. We know that light is good and darkness isn't. People just forget that that light comes from God. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. That's why you have little torches that we'll come to later. Because our verses for today is from John 1, verses 4 and 5. In him was life, and that life was the light of all mankind. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. In a moment, we're going to have another song. As Colin has mentioned, today is an all-age service. It's for oldies and youngies. It means that there will be a bit more chaos, a bit more noise moving around, but that's absolutely fine. For the families that I won't publicly name who was late, Chris, to anyone else. But for those that may not have heard the announcement, there is a creche set up downstairs that is not going to be manned. But if you want to go out to it, you can, but there's no expectation that you're welcome to be here. I'm used to children and young people heckling me as I'm speaking, so that's beautiful. That's fine. But as we're doing the song, have a think on that. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. How beautiful is that phrase? Let's look at the verse. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. It sounds good, doesn't it? It sounds like the type of thing you'd put on a tea towel or on a mug, and you'd give it to someone saying, oh, this is a beautiful verse. The light shines in the darkness. It's so cheery. It's a feel-good verse. But what does it mean? That's what we're exploring today. Does it mean that we should all sleep with the lights on? No. Though, if you do, that's fine. Does it mean to be the best person you can be and make everyone around you feel good? Well, no, that's not what this verse is telling you. Or a truly terrible song that I heard this week when I was looking up for things for this. It was a song all about be your own superhero. I was like, oh dear goodness. Does the light shine in the darkness mean that when life is tough, you just smile and pretend it doesn't happen? No. It was an awful song. Light shining in the darkness, it tells us something actually about Jesus. As you go through the rest of John 1, we see that we're talking about Jesus. And in fact, by the time we get to John 8, Jesus is talking to some Pharisees and he says, I am the light of the world. The one who follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. That's in John 8. So the first bit, we're kind of going, oh yeah, that's talking about Jesus. That's talking about Jesus. And then Jesus knows that sometimes we're a bit slow on the uptake. And so he just flat out says it. I am the light of the world. He is the light that shines in the darkness. In this world that has turned its back on God, Jesus came into it to shine. And that darkness doesn't overcome Jesus. He overcomes the darkness. Jesus, who had compassions on crowds of ordinary people, as he looks out at people just like I'm looking out at you, he has compassion. He sees the lives that people are in. Jesus, who fed the hungry, who healed people not just of injuries and sickness, but also of guilt and shame and depression. Jesus, who removed demons from people's lives, who forgave sins and helps us to have a true relationship with God. When we're reading the Bible, that's the Jesus that we see. And the cultures and traditions might be different now than it were 2,000 years ago. But the darkness is the same. The darkness that whispers to us, you're not good enough. You need to be more like them. You need to fit in. You need to be prettier. You need to have more money. You need a bigger house. You need better cars. You need the newest phone. You need. Always striving for more, never being happy and satisfied, never being at peace. But the joy is that Jesus is the same as well. Jesus is the same. He is the one who understands our weakness, who is tempted in every way. He had those same temptations. You need. But he didn't succumb. He overcame that darkness. Jesus came into this messed up world and he said, the ones who follow me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. And the light of life that is Jesus never fades, always shines, is never overcome. It is the light of life that frees us from those dark whispers. It is there for us in Jesus, because Jesus is greater than any darkness or monsters we face in our lives. Does he mean when he says, those that will never walk in darkness, does that mean that being a Christian is all sunshine and roses? No. It's like, before I even get there, there's a sort of, Mag said no, there's quite a lot of you shaking your heads. No. But it does mean that the light will be with us in those difficulties, in those hard times. Amen. Jesus, talking to the disciples just before the cross, he tells them, I have said these things to you, that in me you may have peace. In the world you'll have tribulations, but take heart, I have overcome the world. It's John 16 for those taking notes. In this world you will have trials and tribulations. But he's also said we'll never walk in darkness. That's because as we go through those times, Jesus has overcome the world. We can walk in a light. We live in a world of darkness where most of the people we meet, that we work with, that we talk with, don't know or follow Jesus. We live in a world of darkness. In this coming week, darkness, death, and scariness is going to be celebrated across the world with Halloween. But we can stand tall in the light, knowing that the light and life that Jesus gives is so much better than this world has to offer. He gives us freedom. The Jesus we see setting people free in the Bible is the same as what we see today. Now we're all affected by this darkness in different ways and at different times. It might be through peer pressure, at school, at work, to fit in, from your friends, just to do what they're doing, just to be like them. It could be with family difficulties. Families can be so difficult. People that we live and work with, we live with, that they're there, they're the ones we've grown up with. Oh, they can be difficult. And some of them are Christians, and you're just like, why are you doing that? And some of them aren't, you're just like, you need Jesus. And they do. Because they live in darkness. But in the family difficulties, in the peer pressure, where is your focus? Is your focus on darkness, or is it on God? Is it on Jesus? Is it on the light? Maybe the darkness that you're going through is health issues, short-term, long-term health issues. Maybe you've been praying for healing and you've not had the instant, miraculous healing that you're wanting. Many of you know about Vicky's mum, who is ongoing treatment with chemo at the moment, having pancreatic cancer. It has been amazing to watch her and her testimony over the last years. Through it all, she said, I trust God. And she is. So we get reports about scans, and it's like, she shouldn't be alive. God has healed her. She's still going through chemo treatment, but God has definitely been healing her. Her relationship with God is so much greater now than it was beforehand. In those health issues, do you rage at God? And sometimes it's okay to share your emotions with God. But do we turn our back on him saying, you're not healing me, I'm done with you? Or do we say, God, I hate this situation, but I trust and I love you to see me through this? He is that light that shines. Sometimes we don't feel it, but it's there. Or maybe the darkness is financial burdens, financial difficulties that you're going through. Do you hoard the money? Is it like, this is mine, I've earned this, I can do what I want with it? Or do you treat it as a gift from God that it is? Do you count your blessings and name them one by one? Do you look at God and say, actually, we live in the UK, a phenomenally stable place of the world. You hear stories of Charlie when he's here, and actually all that's going through, we would provide, was it 11 houses? I couldn't remember the number, yeah. 11 houses as a congregation, we were able to send money out to Charlie to help rebuild. How much would building 11 houses in the UK be? We live in a very affluent area, but it also means the cost of things are very expensive. So maybe it's financial burdens, but do you look to God in those financial burdens? And look to the gifts that he gives. How do you spend your money in the first place? Whatever it is in your life that is not how it should be, that is not how God planned the world, know that Jesus always shines brighter than the darkness. He has overcome it. And sometimes we don't feel like it. Sometimes we're not all happy, clappy, especially when times are tough, and that is okay. Tough times are tough. But with Jesus in our lives, he gives a peace and a freedom. We know that the light has beaten the darkness. We're on this side of the cross. We have the Bible. We can see all that it has to say, that the light has beaten the darkness. And when Jesus returns, whenever that is, he will make the world as it should be. When God will wipe away tears from our eyes, there will be no more death, or moaning, or crying, or pain, for the old order of things has passed away. A world in perfect relationship with God, one filled with life to the full. That is what this verse means, that a light shines in the darkness. It is a great tea towel verse, I'm not going to deny it. But so often we look at these verses and we're just like, oh, that's nice, and we move on. The depth of those verses, Jesus shines in our darkness, and he is more able than any of the monsters, the darkness, the fears in your life to conquer them, and has a chance of giving you freedom. Jesus, who was at work 2,000 years ago, is at work now. And what we're going to do in a moment is take communion together. We're going to remember how Jesus is at work in our lives today. And so it will be a little bit different, as everything today is. What I'd like you to do is to gather with the people around you. Make a small group. You can move chairs around and sort of form a group together and share how Jesus is at work in your life. Now, for some people, hearing that question, you're just like, oh, I don't know, or oh, I'm not ready to talk about that. I get that. There's some weeks you come to church and I'm not ready to come up front and to share how Jesus is working in my life. And so for those that aren't ready or in a place to answer that question, have a think about one thing from this last week. Count your blessings. What can you say thank you to God for this week? And then just in your groups, once people have shared, you can take the bread and the wine together. I won't be leading it from up front. There won't be that awkward of, do we take it, do we not take it? You can do that within your groups. Okay? So share, if you are able to, how God is at work in your life. And if that question seems too scary for you, or if you're not in a place to answer that one, think of one thing to say thank you to God for from this last week. Go for it. Over the last 3 weeks, the adults that have been here or caught up online have been challenged to live a distinctive lifestyle. Dan told us to go out and to proclaim the gospel. Matthew told us last week, or was talking about discerning the will of God and following it. And today we're looking that Jesus is greater than any darkness in the world or in our lives. That is why we want to know what God's will is. That is why we go out and proclaim the gospel. Those that follow him never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. And the Bible doesn't just stop there on the light theme, saying, oh, you've got a light in you, all good. And this is where your little torches come in. I see your little torch, and I bring mine. Jesus, in his sort of great sermon in Matthew, he says, people do not light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on a stand and give light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. That is why we're told to be lights in the darkness. We are to reflect Jesus' light. It is for his glory. We aren't meant to keep this amazing peace, love, and freedom that is the light of Jesus for ourselves. We're to share it with others. So as the lights are all shining now, I was going to switch the main lights out, but it's bright enough outside it wouldn't have made a difference. The light of Jesus, it's there to be shared. And so you get to take these little lights home with you and use them as a reminder of who are you carrying the light to, as the song was just saying. Who are you sharing the light of Jesus with?